I am a dragon. There, I said it. I'm a dragon. Okay, well, why am I saying this? I've been watching videos over the last several years of people talking about their interest in spiritual topics. And there have been a lot of people over the years who've been talking about dragons, dragon energies, all of that kind of stuff. And I just kind of like rolled my eyes at them and was like, whatever, right? But the other day I heard a video about a woman who was talking about this. And she talked about that when this first came into her life, when she was in the corporate world, and she felt very dismissive of it also, and really just kind of shut that down. But then she realized at some point that it was this giant fear that she had. She was absolutely terrified of getting up in front of anyone and saying, I am a dragon. And when she was finally able to face that fear and do that thing that she was so afraid of, she let that fear block dissolved, and suddenly her life took a really good turn for the better. Just she started creating all kinds of abundance in ways that she was really interested in. And so I'm saying this. This really resonated with me specifically because I had, I don't know, since about 2018, I'd seen some videos here and there about people talking about dragon energies and dragon that. And even my whole life, I kind of just rolled my eyes at people who have been fascinated with dragons. And yeah, I felt that fear block. Right? And when I really sat with that and felt deeper into it, what that really was a fear of looking ridiculous, a fear of saying something just silly, a fear of being ridiculed by others and judged, and which is ultimately, we know, a fear of death, right? So, not so long ago in human history, if you got cast out of the group, it meant certain death, right? In our hunter-gatherer days, which were only a couple thousand years ago, if you got kicked out of the group, you were pretty much going to die. You couldn't make it on your own. It was too difficult. But now, modern days, that's not the case, right? And so while back then, that fear of being ridiculed and cast out of the group helped keep us alive, but in today's world, it's really only holding us back. I know that my deep fear of this, of ridicule, goes back to my early educational experience where I just learned differently. And despite, my teacher's best efforts, they just kind of didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with me. I didn't understand how things work for me, my learning style, right? Now we know that there are some different learning styles, and so our educational system is set up for a very particular learning style. And if you don't fall into that, then it can be really difficult to make good grades. Honestly, I feel like at the very least, first grade through eighth grade should be pass-fail. It should be a pass-fail system. There's no way you should be giving small children anything other than you passed, or you didn't pass. And if you didn't pass, the teachers keep working with you until you do. Right? Pass-fail. There's no reason to foist that kind of judgment onto young children who are incapable of emotionally processing that information. It's child abuse. It is absolute garbage child abuse. So it should be pass-fail. And if you want to implement a grading system in high school, fine. Honestly, if placement tests aren't good enough for colleges, then that's the college issue. Our, general educational system should not be geared towards colleges. Not everybody goes to the university. Not everybody needs to go to the university. A lot of people need to go to, other kinds of secondary education, like professional services. That's one of the big holes in our country's educational system. Is the only kind of secondary education that we talk about is university, but we need we need professionals of all kinds who they're not going to learn what they need to learn at the university level, right? So anyway, off my soapbox for that. But and so for me, saying I'm a dragon, am I really a dragon? I don't know, and it doesn't matter. Or even if I am, like, can I do anything tangible with this? I don't know, and it doesn't matter. All I know, the only thing that really matters is that I recognize this fear block inside of me, and I face it. I not only face it, but I walk through it. I walk through that, and face that fear. And like in the olden days, I'm talking prior to Columbus, on all the maps, before we crossed the Atlantic, the maps just had an arrow pointing west that said, "Here be dragons," and that was a metaphor for the fear of the unknown. And so we all have dragons in our lives. We all have these fears of the unknown, fear of death, and we need to face them, because in the modern day, that fear of failure isn't protecting you, it's holding you back. There's so many different ways that people used to figure out their thing to do and do it for the rest of their life. But that's not how it is anymore. We change communities, we change hobbies, we change friend groups, we change careers all the time now. And every time you start something new, there's going to be a level of failure, right? We've all heard that term, failing up. And generally, we're using it to say something, we're using it in a derogatory manner, where we're talking about somebody who is getting promoted despite being widely incompetent, right? We're like, oh, they're failing up. But honestly, failing up is how anybody ever grows, how you grow, right? When you start something new, you're a beginner, you make mistake after mistake after mistake, you learn from those mistakes, you become more competent, you become, a mid-level person, right? And you continue, you make fewer mistakes, but you still make mistakes, and those mistakes help you from becoming competent to expert, right? So failing up is how growth works. And the amount of times that a modern person changes gears and starts something new in their life requires that we all face our fear blocks and walk through them. We've got to walk through them. So once you do, you're going to realize that there was nothing really there at all, right? And that might show up for you in your life as maybe, your parents and your family have put all this time and effort into sending you to college to become a doctor or a lawyer. But you don't want to be a doctor, like maybe you get a year or two into that and you're just like, this is not me. I do not care about this. I need to do something different. But you just have this intense fear about telling your parents, your family, I don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer. I want to, I want to be a writer, or I want to be an art historian or something like that. Of course, they're going to say, well, how are you going to make money? But in this day and age, with the internet, it's easier than ever to make money off the things you're excited about, right? So, not that long ago, if you like to get together with friends, play musical instruments and sing, the best you're ever going to get was maybe you would entertain your people, right? You know, a couple of dozen people. But then, boom, the radio was invented, and suddenly your voice could be heard all over the world. And people became musicians, and they made money off of their music. And a lot of people, right? Before then, if you were a professional musician or singer, it was very, very rare. But then suddenly, bang, everybody, you know, like not everybody, you know, so many more people could be musicians. Now with the internet's like, it's like the printing press, the telegram, the radio, and the television all rolled up in one. And so it's so important for all of us to learn how to face your dragons, right? Like, what's your dragon? So I invite everybody out there that's listening to this, what's your dragon? Identify it. Figure out a way to walk into that lion's den and come to the realization that it's really just a paper tiger. Overcome that fear. All right, that's it for today. Take care.